Well, welcome to what is my first attempt to try to provide some examples and one-on-one help assistance via video to assist you in the weather tracking activity. Before we get started, a couple recommendations. Right now, obviously, I've got the aviationweather.gov website opened up. I'd also recommend you get a second browser window, and whether you do that in tab browsing, or directly, in another web browser, but have a couple ready because we'll be going back and forth between a couple things later in the presentation. The other thing that I'd recommend that you do is you take that PDF file with the questions and actually put them into a Word document file, just like this. Now, I realize that I've asked you not to include the questions, but that's fine for our purposes, excuse me, and probably for your own particular benefit, if you will. You'll want the questions open. It's going to be much easier to answer those without having to refer to another sheet. So for now, that's fine. You can put those in there. I would appreciate it if you'd actually get rid of the questions after. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. I won't be real upset. I'm not going to dock you points. But what it does do is when you submit this and turn it in, any of those questions that appear, because other students have submitted them in the past, appears plagiarism. So it makes it a little tougher for me to sort through what perhaps is copied or potentially copied versus what's real and legitimate in your original weather tracking. So I would appreciate that. So we'll be referring to that Word document. There's another way you can do this, and I want to show you this example from a student actually several years ago. You can see this was actually in December of 2005 the student completed this. So a lot of students have passed through this course without the benefit of this video, but there's a battle that I have, a struggle if you will, between giving too much information and, well, just go to this exact website and track this, and to track this, go here. There's a lot to be a lot of benefit to you as a student to go through the exploration process. So that was my attempt perhaps to help you along that process, but I also don't want this to be so frustrating or time consuming that you lose the benefit of what really this project can do for you. So this particular student made a table and then listed the question numbers. Now honestly, if I had to choose a way to receive these, this would be my preference. So this student built a table of the 37 questions and then just numbered 1 to 5 in a row and answered the questions. There's a couple reasons I like this. One, it's very easy for me to read and to gather the data. I can see whether or not you sufficiently answered a question. I can check the weather charts from those days. It's a very organized method. The other thing it does is it keeps you as a student in the mode of answering the questions more than trying to come up with this verbose time-consuming assignment where you just need to type a bunch of information. You can be pretty quick in your answers, and that's fine with me. I'd actually prefer that. I don't want you to spend hours and hours answering, but what this project usually uncovers is that most of us have a pretty tough time knowing which resources to use for which hazards. And you're not alone if you spent 8 to 10 hours on the first day. But at the same time, this is real obvious, guys, that we've got a problem, either as pilots or administrators, whatever role we fill in the system. There's some issues there if it's taking us that long. So let's go ahead and get started with the weather tracking activity. I'm going to minimize these questions. Let's go ahead and take a look at that first question here. We want to locate the high and low pressure systems. Okay, now I'm wanting you to use the continental U.S. for these questions. If you live in Alaska or Hawaii, that's also fine. But it's obvious that Alaska and Hawaii have some very specific weather products. It will probably be easier for you to track these over the continental U.S. So question 1 refers to high pressure, 2 to low pressure. We'll address those 2 questions first. Okay, so we'll go back to our Aviation Weather Center. Personally, my favorite portion of the aviationweather.gov site is the ads portion. Now, this is the Aviation Digital Data Service. Many years ago, and I guess I should say 6 or 7, when I was dispatching at the airlines, this particular product was an experimental product, if you will. It was available, dispatch operations, flight operations, fleets, but the general public was kind of left out of this. I have to tell you, even though this may not qualify as a QICP provider, which we talked about earlier in the lecture, I think it's absolutely crazy for pilots or dispatchers, flight tracking personnel, managers, decision makers not to utilize these products. These should supplement, I think, every pilot brief